Hi, everyone. Good evening. What's today? May 12th, 2021. And tonight is the official opening of the 2021 La Mama Moves Dance Festival. And I am Nikki Perizzo, and I am the Director of Programming at the Club at La Mama, and I am the curator of La Mama Moves Dance Festival, which is celebrating its 16th year. And I promised our panelists that I wouldn't go on for long, but that's very difficult. All I want to say is that there are many things wrong in this world. And we can't get into everything that's wrong in this world tonight, but we will focus on the fact that this month, May, is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And we wanted to recognize and acknowledge that. And I'm so happy that our moderator for tonight, Maura Nguyen Donahue, suggested this evening. And yeah, so I will say again, welcome. Thank you so much. Please go online and go to our website and see what La Mama Moves has to offer for the next 2 weeks. And you'll find out. I'm very proud of this festival. Thank you. And now I will do a land acknowledgement, which was given to us and written by Muriel Borst Tarrant and her dear late husband, Kevin T. Tarrant. And we want to honor his life. Kevin's life, he was a great artist and community builder and lover of people, and we honor him tonight. And I'm so happy to be reading his land acknowledgement. Manhattan has always been a gathering and trading place for many indigenous peoples, where nations intersected from all 4 directions since time immemorial. It was a place to gather and sometimes to seek refuge during times of conflict and struggle. We at La Mama Experimental Theater Club would like to pay respect to all indigenous ancestors past, present, to their future generations. We acknowledge that our theater and our work is situated on the island of Manhattan, Menohanet, on the island, traditional lands of the Munsee Lenape, the Canarsie, Unkachog, Matinakok, Shinnecock, Regawank, and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. We acknowledge that we are sitting and standing on stolen lands. We respect that many indigenous people continue to live and work on this island and acknowledge their ongoing contributions to this area. And now I would love to introduce my dear colleague and friend, a wonderful educator and writer and mother and wife. And is that still, can I say all those things? And I'm so happy that she's here to host and moderate this very essential evening of the festival. Please welcome Maura Nguyen Donahue. Thank you, Maura.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for that incredible, beautiful land acknowledgement from Muriel. And sending a lot of love up to Kevin as well. I'm actually, before you take off too, I was just realizing that the times that we have gathered as groups that include a lot of Asian American and Pacific Islanders has been at MaMa for memorials for folks like June Maida and most recently for Corky Lee. And so recognizing that we have some important ancestors in the space who have been trailblazers for us and important agents for changing the world into both magical spaces of imagination and writing us back into the histories of America where we've been intentionally erased. And that MaMa has been the place that has allowed us to gather to celebrate those folks. So I appreciate so much that you let me, that you said yes when I said, we gotta get this, we gotta do this. And just based on the conversation we were having before we went live, there's clearly so much that needs to be shared and done. So I really appreciate the space that MaMa is holding for us. So I'm going to ask the other folks, they can turn their cameras on. I am Mornwyn Donahue, she, her. I have been a member of MaMa's Great Jones Repertory Company since 1997. My family, the offspring of my union, are born out of MaMa, so I feel deeply connected. And as Nikki mentioned, I am a professor, director of the MFA at Hunter College in dance, and currently the writer in residence for Dance Space Project's platform, The Dream of the Audience, among some other things. So I'm very honored to be here, and I'm so excited to talk to this incredible collection of humans. I am also on Lenape land, Upper Manhattan, and I appreciate the opportunity to grow my family in this country. I'm going to ask other folks just to do quick introductions with a little bit about how they came to MaMa, because that's always such a great thing. And then we can continue on. And once again, Poetry, you're to my right. Poetry, you're muted.
Me here. Today is the last day of fasting for Ramadan, and tomorrow is Eid. So you're all welcome to come to Queens, where I am right now. Tomorrow you will see all Muslims from the whole world praying in the streets, and also acknowledging that I am here at the land of the Lenape people. I am the founder and the artistic director of the indigenous, Kinding Sindao Malayo Heritage. It's a theater, art, and dance, actually based in MaMa, a resident of MaMa. It asserts, reclaims, preserves, and recreates the ancestral heritage of Southern Philippines through dance, music, and martial art. We give light to the legends, epics, and myths of the unwritten history, and legends and myths, and not much is actually written about it. So it is in MaMa that all this is given space and given a chance to be amplified and propelled all the unknown stories, particularly of those Mindanao people. And in fact, the word Mindanao is not really familiar to everyone. So thank you very much for Ellen Stewart embracing it and giving us space to let this story that will become a missing link of mankind live in that space where the world are able to access it. And also I'm a nurse, and that's the reason why I'm here in USA. I was exported, and here I came at the midst of the pandemic, which is HIV and AIDS in 1990. So I came here during that pandemic, stayed there as a medical surgical nurse, and became an infectious disease nurse and intensive care nurse. And towards my old AIDS. I don't believe in that. Towards my senior year, my hund years of being a nurse, here comes another pandemic. Actually, I went through the other pandemic, which is the Ebola. So I was kind of prepared how to work with people, how to give them competencies, because I was a nurse educator during the time, giving competencies how to wear the PPE. We have a lot of PPE during Ebola time. When the pandemic of COVID came, there was no PPE. So you will see all these Filipino nurses at the ER, at the intensive care, without correct PPE, giving that services to the patient. So so I'm living several lives that as an indigenous woman. Actually, I came from the Maranao people in southern Philippines. So I grew up indigenous. All this art that I'm bringing here to New York is a home for me. Like, you bring your home, you bring your consciousness. So you bring that art. And for me, art and science are one. So healing, being a scientist, and being an activist and being an artist is supposed to be the bag that we have, we carry in the road as we walk, and we pull whatever is necessary from there. And the stage, like La Mama, is the place where no holds bar. We can say
Yeah.
what we want.
Right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks so much, Potri. I'm going to shift us down to Sugar, who's below me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sugar Venzel. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a composer, pianist, and interdisciplinary artist, so I blend music and movement in my work. And I'm in Brooklyn on the land of the Lenape people. And I've lived in New York City for almost 20 years. Crazy. Yeah, I came to La Mama, like I'd heard of La Mama and I'd loved the work that was there. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is, New York downtown experimental, that. And I met Nikki through a friend, Alexis Convento. And yeah, I just, stayed in touch. I kept going. And now I'm, have work that's showing there next week. And I just love the whole vibe. And I'm so happy to be part of La Mama in some way and part of this panel. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. How about we shift over next to you on the screen to Paz?
Hi, everyone. I'm Paz Tanwakyo. I'm a dancer, choreographer, visual artist, and co-founding director of Topaz Arts, located in Woodside, Queens, which is on the land of Lenape, Canarsie, and Muncie. I came to La Mama by way of, I think, Nikki Paraiso. I had done my first evening length work in 1999, and I gathered all these writers, performers, dancers from a piece that I researched going back to the Philippines. My family moved when I was 5 years old. After martial law was declared in the Philippines, my family moved to America. And I hadn't been back, so I got some grants to go back to the Philippines. And when I returned, I made this evening length work that premiered at Mirth Cunningham Studio, which is now gone. So anyway, Nikki Paraiso was one of the performers that I had boldly asked to be part of it. And we've been fast friends since then, and have done many pieces, created many pieces through La Mama's La Mama Moves, and it's just a great place to experiment new work and continue working. So I'm really pleased and really happy to be part of this panel in this really important time that we're in right now to gather and connect as Asian American women, especially at this time. So thank you.
Thank you, Paz. If we jump down, we'll be at Sophia.
Hi, my name is Sophia Guchnov. I live in New York City. I am half Mongolian and half Italian mostly, so I'm mixed. I am a performance artist, actor, comedian, an activist. I have been wanting to get involved with MaMa since I was in college, and I studied experimental theater as my major capstone, and I just fell in love with the theater, learning all about the history of experimental theater and then learning about MaMa Ellen itself. And I see the potential and how works can be created and how it's not just like entertainment, it's also art and how real issues are being discussed. And that's the kind of art that I like to create and that I've been creating in the past 4 years since I graduated from Marymount. Currently, I'm working on a few things, and I gave a speech last month about the hate crimes that are happening against our people. And Nikki was there protesting, and we connected, and here I am. So I'm very grateful to be here. I'm very excited, and I'm just so honored to be here. So thank you.
I love Sophia's. I love that you got grabbed and brought into La Mama from a protest. That's how the world's supposed to work. That's everyone on this panel doesn't need to be told that our lives are just completely synergized between what we do and what we're trying to change in the world. So it's so perfect a story. And we'll finish with Yoshiko. Yoshiko, you need to unmute.
I'd like to acknowledge one artist. By him, I came to New York, 1976. So it's quite a long time ago. His name is Kikuo Saito. If I think about, Kikuo-san, who is an Asian man looking, and then basically, I came from Japan. Think about what was like maybe 60s, 1960s in the East Village. And then now I live here, 4th Street between A and B. That's my place. I live 40 years and I never move from that. So it's kind of a, La Mama Experimental Theater Club is just around the corner. And I'd like to acknowledge a very powerful artist, educator, activist, Ellen Stewart. I met in 1976. And I'd like to acknowledge Nikki Palaiso. We have known each other 40 years. And then the history come and then now present now 2021. I have to speak up to use American English. I have to try out. So that's it. I am. My activity is in the University of the School of Hard Knocks. So that is. My life is just through experience. I didn't go any school here. I didn't have anything to my specialty, but I think I love American English idiom, the School of Hard Knocks. So now we all have to communicate, but our communication is a language, American English, that I have to say, watch out, our language is American English. That's it, I want to say.
Thank you, Yoshiko. And I want to recognize the legacy of work that you have been doing globally and at La Mama, and the way in which the School of Hard Knocks is really like a training ground for an embodied activist self. And we as a as a group, have recognized that we put a lot of what we do into our movement, that the movement is part of our movement, right? The larger movement of changing the world is we use various forms, including just moving the bodies through space to get things to change. I'm going to offer, before we get into more of the dialogue, I'm going to offer a very short statement, which was something that I had started to, it's something I wrote after the murders in Atlanta, because I was in the midst of the Dance NYC symposium where I was on a panel and I was a thematic curator and writing an essay and hosting community gatherings for the symposium. And I started to write something, and we had a moment of solidarity, and it has evolved. And I just want to share a little bit about that, and then we'll begin to ask folks questions. And yeah, I think I've shifted it so I can get through it, because often my anger or my grief means I can't speak some of these things out loud. But I have spent the entirety of my life proving that I didn't need to go back on that boat or go back to my own country or had a sideways slit like my eyes. I made works called Lotus Blossom Itch. I wrote about ambivalent selves, the Asian female body in American concert dance. I know the racial misogyny that has filled law enforcement, news media, and the silence of my own supposed community of art makers and educators through our increasing calls to #StopAsianHate. I don't need an MFA to understand that me and my sisters are as disposable as Cho-Cho-san in Madame Butterfly, that I am here in the imagination of the good old boy as nothing other than lethal temptation. Outrage is a diminutive for the shrieking banshee in my heart. We are human. And then we are just dismissed as the acceptable losses to a white man's bad day. I recognize I'm here today, standing upon the shoulders of many, as I ask you viewers to look out for our elders, or bring them some food, because Asians actually have the largest income inequality for any community in America today. And since it's still contentious to demand BIPOC histories as American histories, I can't blame any of us for not knowing that it was Asians who suffered from the largest mass lynching in US history in 1871, or that the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act was the first and remains the only law to have been implemented to prevent all members of a specific ethnic or national group from immigrating to the United States, although the Muslim ban tried in its own special way. Or that the mass incarceration of Japanese Americans during World War II put 120,000 citizens into concentration camps. Or that the origin story of Asian America, that was the murder of Vincent Chin, includes the fact that neither of the men who beat him to death in 1982 spent a day in jail because, as Judge Charles Kaufman put it, these weren't the kind of men you send to jail. There is so much more. This Stop Asian Hate era, this 21st century yellow peril ploy, asks us to remember the work of intersectional sisters like Grace Lee Boggs, Yuri Kochiyama, and so many other recognized women warriors who are fighting for freedom and solidarity for all oppressed peoples. I end just with a quote from Grace Lee Boggs from The Next American Revolution, Sustainable Activism for the 21st Century. Movements are born of critical connections rather than critical mass. And here tonight, I'm so excited that we have such critical connection. Thank you all for just taking the time to be here and to share what you can publicly about what has been occurring to you. I'm very grateful for this. So I'm going to start with pause because it opened up slightly in the previous conversation about how things have changed. And I'm going to ask you how race or nationality and gender have influenced your work. And I'm going to jump also into how have those perceptions changed over time for you?
Thank you, Maura. Wow, how do we start? We were talking about, the history of making things. In the 1990s, there was this multi-culti movement. And I don't know, it's, well, sorry, I didn't expect to start. A lot of things have changed, but a lot of things have stayed the same. A lot of my work, in the beginning, I was really searching for where my dancing came from, because my family is, I'm basically the artist in the family. Everybody in the field is medical, you know, I'm the only artist in the family. So I was searching where that came from. And when I had the opportunity, I was born in the Philippines, but as I mentioned, my family moved when I was young. When I had the opportunity to go back as an artist and research where my dancing really came from, I actually, to poetry, I ended up going to Mindanao, trying to research where, you know, my movement abilities came from, where it was innate as well as learned, trying to dissect where, going through school, doing training as, you know, in ballet modern, but then realizing, you know, the groundedness of my work and where that came from. So in hindsight, this piece just kept carrying on, still trying to find where my dancing has come from. And to now where my focus is more on the anatomy of my dance. So I feel like focusing on anatomy and dance has been what I'm currently working on, because I feel that anatomy is the great equalizer. We're all bodies, bones, and in this pandemic, as we know, we all breathe the same air and affect each other in that way. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but things have changed in the way we had started to talk about where now in all walks of life that beginning to speak up more, especially now in this more recent tragedies, where you have to really speak up now. I've relied on dance as my medium, but in all forms of your life, in meetings, in teaching, you really, as an artist, have to find a way to speak out when something is not right. Because in my upbringing, a lot of Asian Americans also relate to this, that we're, you know, we don't actually are encouraged to speak out, but now is the time to really speak out because things really need to change. So I don't know.
Yeah, thank you, Paz. Absolutely. And we were saying before how important it is, and that's not often, it's not usually a part of many different Asian cultures to speak out, you know, and to definitely not to individualize the self-experience as one that is, you know, needs to be fought for. But it's clear, and as Yoshiko had said before, we've never seen anything like what we've been experiencing, especially within this past year. And perhaps there was this level of physical violence and danger for Asians who were in America during World War II, but there weren't as many of us, and there was no way for any of that to be documented. But definitely historically, there have been many acts of violence, but what we are witnessing is a clear moment of incredible danger. I was thinking today of what it feels like, wanting to be able to explain to colleagues or students, like, I am showing up for you, but every day, even today, I stand on that corner and I go, am I going to be stabbed? Am I going to be hammered? Am I going to be hit? What is it? Like, I'm looking, I've got my mace, I have my knife. This is our existence right now. This is the existence And I don't think that many folks recognize how persistent that experience is for us. I'm going to come over to Sophia because I'm thinking about the speaking out, since you were found at a protest, but also the interesting, one of the interesting things about this group and the conversation that we negotiate with as Asian American Pacific Islander folks is that we're part of a diaspora, and that we're in the battle of acknowledging Americanness, but also having a global perspective. And I'm curious how that sort of feeds in, because I remember when you sort of introduced yourself as an American, that is an amazing thing I've observed in terms of how I came to an understanding of that, having been born in Vietnam but raised in the Northeast, that I had to actually connect with the California Asian Americans who had been writing and publishing, because I couldn't find that way of thinking. And I'm wondering if, as you find your voice, if there are particular places that you go outside of yourself, and this is a generational question, or if you have it already, like because you perhaps can be more ready than some of us who had to find our kin.
Yeah, so because I'm half, I feel like my whole life has been me never really fitting in anywhere. Like I don't really fit in my white side of my family because I'm always like, oh, she's the brunette one. My mom's blonde, blue-eyed. You know, my aunt's a redhead. I definitely stand out. And then I stand out on the Asian side, the Mongolian side, because like my eyes are not as Asian, and I have different features than them. So I always fit in no boxes, but also fit in my own specific box. And in terms of like the casting world, in terms of acting, I've always been told, we don't know what to do with you. Oh, like they're just confused, and that has been kind of annoying, to be honest, but it's also been kind of liberating, because I'm like, all right, well, if you don't know what to do with me, I'll show you what to do with me, and I'll create my own work so I can find my own artistic voice. And I'm like, all right, so you just are so confused and you can't visualize it, so I will just do it for you. And that's basically how I found my artistic voice. But I really like to talk to my dad a lot about the history. Like he's Mongolian American. His parents came over here from Elista, Russia, which is the Kalmyk tribe, Kalmykia of Mongolia and Russia. And it's interesting because he grew up in a non-English speaking household, and my parents actually faced a lot of discrimination growing up. Of course, I have with my dad as well. But I always try to ask him, like, what was it like doing this, or what happened here? And he tries to tell me all the stories, because his dad's not alive. His dad died when he was a child, and my grandma never really spoke English. I just had to speak to her translated with my dad. So that was interesting. There's always a barrier there, but we still connected. And I went to the temple, the Buddhist temple, with him, and I've done a lot of my own research, but I'm definitely always feeling like an outsider because I am mixed. But at the same time, I just kind of embrace it, and I know that I'm unique and different. And I really am trying to create art and use my voice for change, and to, basically use my privilege in a way of the white side, to be heard and be in the right communities, and then twist it, like being told, oh, wait, you're Asian? You're not that kind. You're not like them. And it's like, well, actually I am. So let's talk about it now that you know who I really am. It's like the assumption. So I've been trying to use my artistic voice, and I guess I'm still trying to find it at the same time, because I am 25. So I'm pretty like, you guys have more experience than I do, and I respect you all. I think it's amazing how many things you've done. But I definitely am my own box, and it's a challenge, but it's also a blessing at the same time, if that makes sense. So.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. I often joke that I'm the undercover Asian. And that in many ways, and I think folks who've, I think Paz was sort of touching upon that thing of maybe sometimes being the only one in the room. And often, especially for Asian women, we are considered agreeable inside of patriarchal white supremacist spaces. So we are allowed to be the person of color in any space, often as like an acceptable choice for white-led institutions. And so I've often felt like it's my job to to get that door open for everybody else, because we're seen as somehow more agreeable, or all of the stereotypes.
I will say one more thing though, that I've never really been able to speak about how I am Asian and been able to be taken seriously until like 2 months ago. Like I literally have never been able to speak about it and been able to feel comfortable speaking about it until violence has happened against this time. And that in itself is really messed up, because I've never been believed. I've been told, oh, you don't count, or what has really happened, you know. And in terms of just being Asian, period, like always pushed to the side, like, okay, well, you're not having the same plight and struggle as these kind of people. And it's like, we don't need to compare struggle, you know, like any struggle is not cool. Like any racism in any degree is not okay. In the same way that any kind of sexual violence is not okay, whether it's rape or whether it's like groping or harassment, you know. And for the first time in my entire life, I feel like I can actually speak and be listened to. And I really hate that it took the murder of women that finally was published on the news, as if this hasn't been happening forever, you know? Yeah. So that's just one little thing that's interesting.
Thank you. I think there's been a constant it's been a question for a long time of just why trauma has to be the activating agent for compassion or care from other members of society. Why do we have to put trauma on display for our humanity to start to become potentially something worth considering? And this has been such a part of, you know, a lifetime of civil rights struggles, and just the experiences that so many of our community members and kin and friends experience with constant other police brutalities and just the systemic racisms that exist. Sugar, I wanted to ask you about, as the kind of the composer who's also about to show some work at MaMa Moves, how your experiences as as an Asian American female identifying artist in New York City in the 21st century shows up in your work, and how it shows up in how people respond to your work.
Yeah, so, you know, I started off as a classical pianist, like super classical, and it's so interesting, you know, like being in music school, like really makes you, they teach you basically how to hate yourself. The way they would talk about those pianists from Asia, you wanted to just like disassociate from them. You're like, oh, well, I'm not from Asia, you know? And they, you know, they'd say things like they're just going to go back, you know, so that they're going to get this pedigree so they could go back and like get a husband. I mean, just like, you know, and I should have been sticking up for those girls, you know, but it's just like I wanted to like totally disassociate. And they also had these, you know, there's expectations of you being like this completely like mechanical, like, you know, machine of a pianist, and if you're not, then you sucked at the piano. It's like, well, what do you want, you know? So anyway, yeah, so wait, so the question, sorry, I'm like blah, blah, blah. The question was about how it, I guess, like my identity comes into my work essentially. You know, basically I had to, yeah, like carve it out for myself. Like, you know, like Sophia said, I started an ensemble, and I was like, okay, well, you know, I'm not a favorite. Like, how am I gonna, you know, do this, you know, have this career? So I started just really simply by incorporating fashion into the concerts, because, you know, that's just like how I express myself, is through fashion. And it's so funny, like a lot of, you know, this mostly white field would criticize me for being what, superficial, or like, you know, and you ask any person of color, no one's going to be like, you're just superficial for trying to make yourself look nice and presentable and presenting your best self. It's really interesting, you know? So I mean, it's subtle, but that's a thing, I think, for us as Asians and being a person of color and, you know, being a child of immigrants, is like you're taught to, like, you know, express yourself through your body and what's on your body, and it's not viewed as like superficial. It's, you know, you're just trying to show the best side of yourself. So that was like, you know, the small kind of, you know, way that my identity came through. And then, you know, once I got over my fear of composing and making things, which was just 4 years ago, yeah, I just started like really digging in deep, and I made a piece that is supposed to show LaMama later on, but it's called Islander, and it has to do with like the fragmentation and loss of identity. And Paz saw like some of the work in progress at National Sawdust Wellbeck, but you know, the reason I ended up being a composer was because it was supposed to be a collaboration and not about identity at all. And I wanted to incorporate like Filipino dance, and the composer, you know, was like, I'm worried about cultural appropriation. And I'm like, but I'm Filipino. I'm like, yeah, great. You're so woke. Okay, I get it. But it's kind of like, I felt like I was, you know, being told like, you know, like when you bring lunch to school and kids are like, ew, what's that? So anyway, like it's made its way in there. And then I also like kind of react to the way, you know, people seem, like you said something about like, why does trauma have to be active, you know, the activation for humanity? I feel like that's even prevalent in our arts field. Like, it's like, you can't be on stage unless you're showcasing your trauma, you know, like, which I think it's fine if, you know, you really want, of course, we need that sometimes, but then it becomes a thing. And that's when the tokenization comes in, and that's all they want to see from you. Like, that's the only validating part of your identity as an artist of color. So it's like, I refuse now, except for next week, my piece is going to be a reaction to everything going on right now, but it's like, you know, but it's different. Like, I wasn't forced to. So anyway, like, it's like, I'm trying to just be steadfast and true to myself, like as a human, you know, like this is what I want to make work about. And in terms of like, you know, like my Filipino identity, like, I mean, you know, when the idea comes, it'll come. But I, right now as an artist, I'm just trying to like collaborate with more, you know, other AAPI artists and artists of color, and like, yeah, be very vocal, as we're all saying, not just through art, but just really like, it's sometimes just got to be clunky and messy, you know. I yell at, for years, even before all this happened, I yell at people on the street all the time, because it's like, I got to represent, you got to see that we're not weak, you know. So yeah, that's how. Did I answer the question?
Yes.
I feel like,
I mean, honestly, just hearing from everyone is the point. So the question is just the springboard. But I appreciate what you're talking about too, because I have to admit, I did one of the hollaback, you know, not the bystander training, but the like, what are you supposed to do if someone's coming at you? And I admit I was completely triggered and yelled and screamed and went off like a bomb in my living room for a couple hours afterwards, because I was like, I am fighting the whole stereotype of a submissive, agreeable, quiet Asian person, Asian woman. So, and that's like my work, my early choreographic work was all about that. My academic research was all about that. So if you come at me, I'm gonna fuck you up. Like, I'm done, right? I know that's not the reasonable response, but the world is not reasonable. And so I'm just gonna say, I appreciate you for
it's reasonable.
getting into it. Speaking of people who will go into it, I'm coming over to you, Poetry. Poetry and I run into each other at protests all the time. We have like a new collection of selfies from many different protests. As somebody who's been doing the work of nursing, you know, frontline nursing, I just was following, you know, in Elmhurst during the height of that, you know, and you're running your company and you're making your work and you're showing up at the protests and you're just always everywhere. How do you practice resiliency? How do you stay in it? You're muted. Yeah.
I think I've been tested again and again on how can I be resilient. I grew up during martial law days of Marcos regime. I was a child. I have undergone so much, like the whole jeepney, the jeepney of the Filipinos, the whole jeepney were massacred, and I was covered with people over me. I thought I was dead. I was tasting blood already. And then I can hear the soldiers, of course, those Marcos soldiers, strapping the rest of the body, and I was not hit because there's a lot of adults over me. I was like maybe 9 years old. And then after they left, I think the blood caked all over my body. I can't move. I said, oh, I'm dead. I'm dead. So then I heard people coming and crying, and eventually took me out. So that's just an example of a revival of what happened in 1907 massacre of Mount Budaho, Sulu, where there's one child that survived. That's I come in and out with that. And I think my childhood, that was so beautiful. Like when the thunder and lightning, when you see that, we're not afraid. We're full of magic in our minds, because the next day there are growing mushrooms in the meadows. And we never had, I grew up with no television. During sundown, we go home, wash the river or well to start the evening prayer, the Maghrib prayer. And after that, we go around storyteller in a bonfire, and the storyteller start to chant the story. And usually I request for my favorite story, The Sun and Moon, why they meet during dusk and dawn. Up to now, I'm still so fascinated with that, even though I know what is science. And also to eat the snacks that is under that bonfire, the kamote, So those are the things that comes back to me again and again. I was in prison as a political prisoner. I was blindfolded for 2 weeks. I don't want to start more talking about that because I'll start crying. When I wrote my class suit statement against Marcos, I mean, like, I was not able to sleep for 2 weeks. The whole torture came back to me. But then eventually, I turned that into a one-woman show that I treated myself as a third party. So those are the resilience. It's art, it's theater, it's childhood, beautiful storytelling that during the time when I was blindfolded, the purpose of torture is for you to disintegrate and for you to just say anything so that you can be freed. But I became, I memorized all the epics in my mind for those 2 weeks because I revisited, and the character was alive, and I became a character in that story. So those are the things actually that I place at La MaMa and I perform on stage. So my art is my resilience, and everything for me. I have this fairy tale kind of thinking that everything happens in front of me as part of a story, and always go back to that. Oh, I have to do this because the hero of that story did this. So I don't know how much can I relate to that, because that's art by itself. It's art that made me, because otherwise I'm a broken person with all the trauma that I have undergone. Trauma that no one, I think, can imagine. That you can see on television, like bullets in between your fingers. Right now, I'm in pain. I'm 24/7 in pain with my right arm, especially when I came to America, when I have experienced a coldness. But look, I teach dance. I teach the dance, and with all the story that this is rain, this is ocean, this is bubble from the sea, then I would relate to the scientific meaning that if you do this, then there will be no more carpal tunnel. So I think it's art. And of course, the discipline of Islam that I grew up with, that I have to pray 5 times a day. And then when I was young, when you become so rowdy, my aunt gave me tesbih. This is the rosary beads that you have to sit in one side and you have to repeat that prayer 1,000 times. You know, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah. So this actually that's the mantra, and then you align yourself. So I still develop that, and when I care for a patient, of course, the science is in my brain. Like, what is the next drug? What am I going to do? What is this blood pressure doing? What, you know, you have to think like 1,000 times in all directions, and you have an eyes at your back. You have to feel the patient. At the same time, there's a prayer behind. Like one of my nursing aides said, "Why are you crying when you're taking care of this patient?" Because when I was new here, I saw the patient that has so, you know, like rotting while alive, the decumbitous ulcers and everything. So when I clean that patient, I cry and I pray behind my mind. I'm just praying hard that so and you're telling me, you're asking me about this resilience. So I'm mixing everything here, because art and science for me is that resilience. It we put them together equals resilience. Plus, of course, there's a lot of spirituality that for me it's still science in it, because repeated prayer aligns your mind, aligned your body, aligned all the psyche in you, and then you are reborn again, and then you have that energy again. So, and the healing, I believe that we are all connected. So if I believe that I'm healing myself, I'm healing you. I cannot serve a patient if I am also crazy. You know, if I'm not clear, if I have not cleared myself with my energy, then I'm not able to serve properly. Because for me, nursing is more than nursing is my license. Nursing is my Western title to give me that authority that I am a nurse, and I have privilege to talk to you and privilege to give you all this medication. But for me, the real healer is the connection, the energy between me and my patient and the surroundings. Because if I give the antibiotic or if I give the medication, fine, those are chemicals that will give you like 2 hours of relief. But if I connect with you, for example, I have a patient, and I was in the, I'm just going from my nursing to theater,
Yeah,
because
I'm thinking about your, I mean, I'm thinking about your solidarity work is also so important as part of the way in which you maintain resiliency, because you always seem so connected.
The solidarity work is very, very important. Just like what Pa said, that we cannot be silent at all. We cannot silent be anymore. And then if you notice the word kinding, sindao, kinding means graceful movement. But sometimes it becomes a movement. And sindao means to light. Those are Austronesian words that kinding is still understood by other Malayo country like Indonesia and Malaysia. In the Philippines, it transformed by itself. Sindao is where the sindi came from, or to light. So through that movement, you can bring light, bring warmth, or bring enlightenment. So the solidarity, as I was explaining earlier, that healing is me and you together. So that solidarity is also a healing act. Now, among the indigenous people, it has to be a collective act to solve a problem, to plant, to in everything. It's always a collective action. So the world is, the capitalist world makes us so individualists. And that is very pathologic. That makes us very sick, because then I will live in a silo. Then I will just be like this. I just want to be doing all this for me to be praised. So that is very sick. Now we have to go back to a collective life, and art is.
So you're giving me, you're giving me the segue over to Yoshiko.
And also, just very important that the collective life, which owns the earth owns us. Now we cannot. Anyway, go to Yusiko first. We'll talk more later about
well, because just knowing that how much work you do in solidarity with so many other communities and how you build that, it's so clear that that is also, it's like Yoshiko's recipe. I feel like the way Yoshiko makes the being with others into the actual work, the work is not it's something that goes beyond this word we're calling solidarity. It's like actual witness, and I've been sort of using this in witnessing, but really being with one another, and not just sort of standing next to each other, but like understanding that the community is connected, and it isn't me fighting on behalf of somebody else or me standing next to you, but it's us doing the work. Yoshiko, does that feel like, do you feel like I'm getting something about what you do?
Yes.
And I mean,
Yes.
and like how important it is to work
Yes,
that
yes.
way, that one must make their work in that way.
I think recently I mostly thinking is that I'm running. And Sophia, you say, number of the life, maybe I have a more number than you are, number of the life. But I don't think it's not really doesn't matter. And when you say you are on your box, you are on your box, and I am my own box also. And the poetry describe about, her experience, which I have been knowing a little bit, but now from her conversation is make more understand. And then after poetry, I have not much want to say. And then basically, if I just say, this is very important for me. The war of the Vietnam, that maybe 60s to 70s. And also, this is all connected to capitalism, money, and then the energy, and then the atomic bomb. And then I must say myself, I like to hear the people the word, and I like to interview people. And then kind of my choice to come to Manhattan was really connected with the war of the Vietnam. So, sometime word, if I say what I have done in the 1960s, the 1970s, that is just a word. I think I feel I'm making up more than I was. So I just say I haven't, I didn't do so much 40 years, but I say, over the La MaMa, New York, this Manhattan told me many kind of an incredible amount, sometimes each 1 second, I live same place. And then it's a function, people walking, collecting the garbage, I really want to more communicate with, each one of them. And that is a kind of my practice. And but my last chapter in Manhattan in the theater as a maybe say creator, and I'm also producer. I didn't bring much more money. It's almost a low budget. I have never worked in any of the organization, which is not my choice. Just I don't have that skill. So it's when you have a choice, you have A choice, B choice, C choice, you have a choice. But I am always kind of a grade F. My abilities are very small. So then I don't need to think about what I can choose. So it was a kind of also, I make film. So then almost the first take out footage. So all my life on the School of Hard Knocks is I am holding take out footages. So which never have, I want to do this, I want to do this. But I have to say, I can do only that. Even like typing the English and the vocabularies, when I getting sometimes confused. So I think recently, last 5 years, I have to understand our generation, don't ask me how old I am, but our generation didn't do anything. So that all pressure to go into younger generation. And then, okay, what was a war, Vietnam in Japan? And then what is it? And then there is a lots of a student movement and lots of demonstration. And I have been so much in demonstration. Sometimes we throw out something and then somebody die and then somebody's arrested. But okay, after that, something change. But essentially, basically, human justice didn't change it. But I really want to say, maybe Nikki Palaizo can share with me, late 70s and beginning 80s. It's a change. Each one of, Sophie, you changing now. That's important. Don't worry about, what you know or what you don't know. You are teaching me. I have to pass. I'm so, the tearing, how you met the Nikki, how you did, and how you met the La Mama, and just incredible. I love you. And that is the only I can say, but I cannot adding more. Not the lectures, not the lectures. This is, I'm getting old. I think maybe, I don't know. I don't want to talk about the numbers, Maybe more my life will be, okay, this is my body condition, more 5 years. I know what is the last chapter is. So, which probably I want to say, the School of Hard Knocks became 40 years anniversary from this year to go to until 2023. But I would like to do anything that people doesn't do, because I do very one by one. My audience is 100 people enough. 100 people enough. If I can pass a little bit, my wishing didn't happen. I have never made a completely satisfied production. And then, so that is, so I do Secret Journey, School of Hard Knocks 40 years, but end will be 2023, June, July, and probably our lovely, La Mama, and then the La Mama. Not I'm talking Ellen. I'm not talking about the Nikki Palaizo. La Mama. I'm not talking Miayu. I'm not talking about that one person. Kind of mythology that is said La Mama, the mother, La Mama. That. I'm not also particular to Ellen Stewart. So La Mama will be support me 2023, and then it will be dead end the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
I think
Wow.
you have to carry on. So if you know my activity, you have to just contact me. Anybody you listen, you can go contact me, and then I have to write to you each one. And then Sophie, I like I really learned what you said, and you speak so fast. Your grammar is so perfect. Okay. I live this Manhattan, 44 years. But you speak incredible. So I have to really listen, each one word. So that was Mara, that is a good, I say.
Yes.
I am going to die, I mean, it's just, death is not afraid,
Yes. Yeah, no, that's and exactly.
I don't really, care about the medicine science, maybe poetry can say, oh, Yoshiko, you should have this medicine. You are going to have you are not going to die, but I like to die some moment. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't want to have
I think you've got it, right? We need to, do it. Just, we have to live it as fully as possible. I realize that we're getting really tight, and I think we had offered that we could take questions from the audience. But I think I wanted to make sure that there was time for folks to talk about Yoshiko, you just gave us that you're working on something that we're going to get Dead End in 2023.
Dead end.
Yeah. But I'd love to know what folks are working on. And I also just want to offer that, I'm not sure if this got to go into the chat, but there is a document that I put together in collaboration with the group, links, an ask to donate. In particular, I wanted to send people towards Womankind, which does work for Asian women experiencing violence. So to our viewers, if you could take this moment of support, but we also have a document that has many other organizations for more information, websites for the folks, bios, and other organizations that you can get educated from or support in their work. But let's hear what folks, if a question comes in, we'll try to maybe answer one, but I'd love for folks to be able to just talk about what's coming up, what's cooking. Should I pause? Are you, what do you want more? Yeah.
On that note of the resources that you're listing, I put one down that after the Atlanta shootings, I just felt like at a loss, and just like searching online, social media, where can I go to deal with this? And there was one organization that National Asian Pacific American Women's Forum that I didn't know about, but they had this online thing that I joined, and it was really helpful to find that. I mean, whatever you think about social media, you find these things, right, that that you can go reach out to and find help. When the Atlanta thing happened, it was just so devastating. Sorry. So there are these resources that people should look out to. I also wanted to mention an artist that is giving out her posters, and she's up on Times Square right now. Sorry. She goes by a long last name on Instagram. Of course, I also have a long last name. And I'm not going to try to pronounce her last name, which is my bad, because we should all learn each other's names fully. But she has these posters, incredible posters that you can share. I'm just throwing these out because, in our own little pockets of our worlds, we really need to take care of each other in some way, and just the ways that we can share knowledge, share resources. But as far as your question, what am I working on? It's hard because the pandemic, it's really hard to get things going. Thankfully, through MaMa and Nikki Paraiso, who had invited me to do some online showings through several times during the year, I was able to create new work on online that we presented through Nikki Land, Christmas in Nikki Land. I did a piece then that I'm continuing these dance drawings that I've been working on with drawings by Manuel Ocampo, who's a renowned artist from the Philippines. I commissioned some drawings from him. So I do these dances inside the drawings on glass. So I'm working on that and continuing the series. But also during the pandemic, I just wanted to keep creating and did this through Dance Rising, actually, which was an incredible platform that got many dancers throughout New York City dancing outdoors. I was thankfully, got on the rooftop, did some dances, and those, through their incredible partnerships, were shown throughout New York City. So that felt good. So it just little bits of starting to come back out, and Topaz Arts has been closed for over a year. It's been really hard, but we've also started doing outdoor exhibitions so that people can still, we have these pop-up exhibitions that we do outdoors on the garage door. So things are starting to reopen, so we hopefully can start reopening soon-ish, but that also takes resources and money, and it's hard, but we're still gonna try and keep making and doing so, and to support artists as well. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Paz. That was great. And thank you for the Dance Rising shout out too. I was part of the original founding collective, but I got way too busy in this past spring to keep up. But it's been incredible seeing the works. If folks didn't get to catch works, there were these dance outs that would happen, calls for folks to dance, shoot yourself, with the phone or video, send it in. And then there were projections in St. Mark's. They were on kiosks all around the city. So you could see dancers dancing at those, at the kiosks around the city. And it's advocacy for just not letting our field disappear and wither away in this. And please support Topaz Arts, viewers out there, right? Grassroots, neighborhood, artist run, women of color, just all the, what do you need? What do you need to be told to support that thing? Send help. Anybody else? Who else has
I
stuff
would
coming
like
up?
to hop in. Thank you. We have every week dance classes, Saturday and Sunday through Zoom. You will learn a lot, especially our teachers actually are directly from whatever nations we have in the Philippines. Recently, we have the Maranao, and then we have the Tiboli. This came up. In the beginning, I was the one teaching, and of course, the instructions in Kinding Sindao. But then they keep on texting me, they need money. So I said, okay, I'll buy you a smartphone, and I'll buy you a Wi-Fi, and you have to teach. It's not only you, but I want your children and your grandkids to be in the wardrobe and explain to us what is the wardrobe, and you have to teach. So that's the way we keep the preservation of culture, for them to know that there's that value of the culture to be preserved, at the same time continue telling the story. So then they earn money from us. So it will be not dole out. And then, okay, so that's every week. And every other week, we have a talk show called Rinayong. For everyone here, if you want to learn more about the unwritten story, culture, tradition of Southern Philippines, hop in. You will have scholars and community scholars talking about the culture and tradition that are not, in fact, in the books of the Philippines. And also, we have music. You can connect with us. We have original Kolintang in ensemble, and also all the chants of the legends, epics, and myths that I was telling earlier, that actually needs to be what you call this, preserved in a form, because it's still going through generation to generation. But with the radio and television, we'll be losing that. And then we have we have the several AAPI event, which is Queensborough President, which is in May 25. And then we have the Philippine Independence Day, which is June 10. And then follow us in Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and www.kindingsinao.org. And I want to shout out to Kinding Sinao members. Actually, they're part of our resilience because they continue this program. When I am in front of the front line, the Rinayong program went on, the dance classes went on, the martial art classes went on, and also the writing grants to support the classes directly from the indigenous people in the Philippines. So for Filipinos out there, check us out because it's very precious that we will catch this. Meanwhile, we're still in the Zoom mode. And also we will be at LaMama coming June for our project Salsila, which is supposed to be in person, but it will become via what to call this? It will become
A virtual
show. And also we have storytelling, La Mama also, and Queensborough, Queens Public Library. We'll be there twice, May 28 and then June 14. So Kinding Sindao is alive, and the lockdown actually is a lockout. It was lockdown, but I'm so praising and so shouting out the members of Kinding who are very good, savvy in IT, that they're able to make alive and beyond. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I also want to share that LaMama, that you're helping to organize a May 30th event as we come to the end of the Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and like everybody else, it doesn't end when the month is over. But that there will also be another event that LaMama will be holding that is more ritual based, and that's still information, and poetry is really helping to keep driving that. So we'll stay on the lookout for more information about that.
And they're all
Sophia, you want to share anything that you're cooking?
Sure. So, I mean, the pandemic stopped a few things because obviously, pandemic. But I'm hoping to bring it back since things are more open. I was producing this self-made one-woman show with body paint to do with healing and like getting out of eating disorders, like being a female that's American, being a female that's in the entertainment industry. So it's like healing with me being a canvas, and you guys would paint me, and then you would paint yourself, and it's all about healing the body. So I'm working on that still. I never stopped working on it, even though the world stopped. I've been producing a lot of comedy, a lot of self-produced stuff in this time. I just premiered some MTA virtual stand-up about the trains in New York. I have a production company with my best friend called The Tadpoles. We produce a comedic web series about New York as well. We love New York specific comedy, and about my activism. I want to create a piece that I've been thinking about doing, but I haven't done it yet, to do with being mixed and being half. And I actually want to use yellow paint on purpose. It's kind of a reclaiming of the color. So I'm working on that, and yeah, just a bunch of different things. I'm in a few like commercials right now, Minute Maid, Walmart, and in a Marvel production with Method Man and Anna Sophia Robb. So, keeping my acting, but also my self-produced soul feeding work. And definitely excited to collab with LaMama. So yes, lots of good things.
Yes, do it. I'm so excited. There's so many, whatever folks learned from us tonight, that's wonderful. But for me, it's been so good just being together with you all and like meeting, reconnecting, and then meeting you folks. I want to have Sugar remind us of the LaMama Moves show that's coming up, and anything else that you've got cooking.
Yeah, the show's on the 22nd and 23rd. I'm sharing the bill with Jasmine Hearn, and I'm showing pieces from a series called Test Sites. So I make these works like in a really short period of time. It's usually a quick process. and I'm making a new one, and it's a reaction to everything that's going on. It's going to be just really raw and elegant. Yeah, and I'm doing that and working on an album, and yeah, trying to like keep my shit together because I have a 4-month-old now. So I'm like, my hair is
Yeah.
on fire all the time.
I was gonna say, you're trying to raise a human
Yeah,
in a global pandemic, and yeah.
yeah. So that's
Wow.
What's up.
Is
I
that
want to add a hashtag love for Marawi. Anyone who wants to support the indigenous people in the Philippines who are facing displacement up to now since May 23, 2017, just go to our website. Thank you.
thanks, Poetry. Sugar, can you remind me, is that an in-person outdoor, the 22nd and the 23rd? This is something folks could actually, it's not a virtual, right?
Yeah,
It's
no, it's
possible.
not virtual. It's outdoors, and I need like I haven't even put this out publicly, but I need like 2 more performers or so to do something extremely simple. I'll pay you cash money, Sophia. Like,
Yes, booked and busy.
and pause if you're not busy. I just assume everyone.
Sure, I can do it.
Really? You would do it? Oh my God. I
So
just
you have to
assume.
contact me.
I will. It's so
love
easy.
this.
It's like ridiculous.
Well,
So, okay,
And
cool.
contact me too. We can work together. Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
great.
There we go,
That's
Nikki.
awesome,
Look, we just
Nikki.
started a collective.
Oh, and the last thing is actually the posters that Paz mentioned by Amanda Pingbotikaya. I know her name is so long. I'm actually writing the music for a short film based on her new installation in the meatpacking. I just saw it today. It's so gorgeous. It's called May We Know Our Strength. And the film's going to be by Jui Pang. So check that out if you can. 401 West 14th.
I want to just maybe adding is, do you know, over the pandemics, now we are meeting to, very remote. It's incredible, didn't happen without this, their pandemics. And then I think, very update of the, technologies are making different communication. And I have never thought, I'm now talking and I'm watching myself. This is very bizarre, but now I start to use to, I have never seen me perform. And then now I'm watching my frame and then where I am and where's my hand. And it's incredible, kind of technology. And media, media is sometimes very scary. When we are all media control us. And then it's technology. We have this tool, and then it's really important excitement moment because each one of us, we have a media, and then maybe how much this smartphone is helping to, what happened at that moment, what happened, the bombing, what happened, people killing. So that is this technologies are making totally different time of in the world. And I just want to say, we met here because by technologies and then by my dearest pandemics. Without the pandemics, we didn't have this one. I just want to adding that. And also, please be aware of what's going on in Palestine, Jerusalem, and what's happening in Burma, because I have my base there, and it's very difficult for me. I'm completely depressed and a black hole. I cannot do anything. So I just want to share with that. I know that every day, not, I'm not the Burman or not I'm Palestine, but I just want to you have a time, be aware what's going on there. People is killing the young generation, student movement, especially writers. Writer is a target. Yeah, because that I just want to share that.
Thank you, Yoshiko. Thank you all. Nikki, thank you for giving us this space, and to the staff, to Craig, Chris, Ignacio, and Sarah Ray Murphy for holding it down for us. I want to encourage folks to check out the Asian American Foundation. It's newly formed, and I don't even know that much about it, but I was watching some of the launch conversations. They're collecting data and they are funding things So TAAF as a something that seems like it should have existed already, but the current trauma has created that coalition building. So Nikki, do you want to see us out? Thank you again.
Don't
Thank you
forget
all.
to get the photo, group photo.
Oh,
Should we do our screenshot? Well, I already did one, but I'll do another one.
Hello, Sarah.
What a wonderful hour. It's yes, it was just gorgeous, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.